All right, welcome back again to this section where we would be importing our footage and starting our edit. So before we start, I just quickly want to show you this setting that you would have to do in this editing interface before you import any footage. So if you look over to this right side, you would see these informations that we have here. So remember I said this section is the section where we'll get to edit things about our footage, our audios, and the rest of them. So because we have not imported any footage, it is showing the details of this particular project, just as you can see the name, CapCut Edit Test, and the rest, things like that. So the settings that I wanted to talk about is this proxy settings here. As you can see, it is turned off. We would have to turn it on before you import any footage. Just as you can see, it is turn on proxy mode to improve editing fluidity without affecting the final exported video quality. So what this simply means is it is saying that it would reduce the quality of any footage that you import so that you would have a smooth playback and avoid any lagging. And I just want to also add that the minimum requirement of a machine that can work fluently without lagging for CapCut is 8 GB of RAM. So if you're using anything below that, I'm not sure you will be able to use this software efficiently. So to turn this on, we'll quickly head on to Modify. I'll select Modify, so it would bring up this section here where it says name, the name, imported media. You can also select this if you want your imported media to stay in the same location in your file manager, or you want them to be copied to your project. Whichever one is fine. Copying media to project is best, so I would recommend that you just select that. And that is all for this section. Aspect ratio, you can leave it to original. We will talk about this when we have our footage imported. I'm going to quickly show you something about this. So the resolution, adapted frame rate, adapted color space, all of these are fine. So to change the proxy settings, we have to go to this performance section. So I'll select this, and just as you can see, this is the section where we can turn on the proxy settings. So I'll quickly turn this on. And the resolution, only convert materials above the proxy resolution. I'll just save this like this. Good. So now we are ready to import our first footage. So I'll head on to the folder, believing that you have downloaded the footage from the Google Drive link, or you have your own footage that you want to use, whichever one is fine. I would just access this main footage here. As you can see, we have two folders, the main footage and the B-roll footage. I'll quickly explain what B-rolls mean. But first, let's import our main video that we want to work with. So I'll head on to copying these two files and dragging them into our media library. So I'll drag this here and drop it. Just as you can see, we have our footage imported in our media library. So just a quick one, that this footage is only please for practice purposes. All right, it's a video of a video instructor talking about video editing. We'll just use that to create something professional so that you can get familiar with all the tools that we can find in this desktop version of CapCut. Besides it, here is the audio file for this video as well. The audio was recorded separately from the video just to enhance its quality and make the audio a really good one. You really do not need to do that, but if you know that your video does not have a good audio quality, you can record your audio separately from your video so that you can improve the quality and make your edits sound good. So now that we have our footage in our media library, the very first thing we will want to do is dragging our footage down into our timeline. And to do that is not difficult at all. I will just come on here, select this, and drag it down to the timeline. And when it's here, I'll just leave this. And we have our footage in our timeline. So just as you can see below the footage here in the media library, it says proxy file. This means that it is using a lower quality of this video in this editing stage. But take note, it will not affect the final resolution of the video when we want to export our video. So before we proceed, I would like to quickly show you what this section is for, where it says ratio below here. This is actually where we can change the ratio of what we want our project to look like. For example, YouTube has its own ratio, Instagram has its own ratio, Reels has its own ratio. So this is a section where we select which platform are we editing for. All right, so to do that, I'll quickly select this. Just as you can see, it is set to the original ratio of the footage. This footage is a 16:9. If I come over here and select 16:9, just as you see, nothing changed. That is because the footage itself is a 16:9 footage. But if, for example, I want to create a video for a reel, the ratio for reels is 9:16. So if I go on to selecting that, just as you can see here, the ratio in my media player section has changed. So I can select this and adjust it to whatever position that I want this to be in this ratio. So this is how you select the aspect ratio of your project depending on which platform you are editing for. I'll go back and select original for this so that we can use the footage initial aspect ratio for this project. So the very next thing I would want to show you how to do is how to cut and trim your videos. This video is a very long video. It's about, just as you can see here, 1:23 minutes video. We do not want to use the whole footage of this video because there are some parts that we would want to cut out. For example, if I play the video,
practice footage to use for the editing course, recorded audio separately if you want to sync these up. Also there's onboard audio but not great.
So just as you notice, there's some part of the video where this video instructor said some things that we do not need in our edit. So to cut this, I can do that in two ways. I can do that from the media library here, where we have the original footage, and I can still do that right here in our timeline. So since we already have this imported in our timeline, I can just select by dragging this. Take note, I'm dragging this by holding onto this marker here, and I can move this around to select different parts of the video. So I'll just have to play this. I think it's somewhere around here.
For the editing course, I love editing.
Good. I got the point. It is right from here. I don't know if you can see this, but I will just zoom this in so that it will become more clear. And just to also show you where we can zoom into our timeline, this little slider here is the section where we can zoom into our timeline so that we can see more details of the footage that we are editing. So just as you can see, just to show you something, if you see here, the original video has its own audios. We have not added the external audio in our timeline. The original video has its own audios, but the audio quality of this is not as good as this. That is why we'll be using this one. I know you might be wondering, how will we use the both of them? Don't worry, I will show you exactly how to do that. So just as you can see here, this bit right under here signifies the audio, and if I go ahead to increase this, if I increase this, just as you see, they are more clearer, and now we can now see where there's an audio, where the volume is high, where the volume is low. If you see the bit signifier is high here, that should tell you that there's an audio there, which means he's talking in the video. But if it's very low, this should tell you that there is no audio in this section. So we'll just look for that part where we want to cut. I'll go ahead and play this again.
Well, let's begin now. So
Good. So from here, this section here is where we want to use from. So I would just select this. I would select this. Good. And take note, to cut this, I can do it in two ways. I can select this, push my cursor up out of the footage and bring my marker to this section. Good. When my marker is here, I'll select the footage and head on to this right here where it says split. So I can split this and the footage would split at that exact spot. Now take note, this is how I would be showing you how to use every single one of these tools that we find here. So I've just shown you one. Take note, this is the split tool. So if you want to split your footage, if you want to split your audio, this is the tool that you use. But just to make this even more easier and simpler for you, just as you can see in the bracket here, the shortcut for split is B. So if I want to split this audio without having to come here to click on this tool, I can just press B on my keyboard. I will do that right away. So I'll just do Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z would go back and undo the last action I did. So I would come over here. Now instead of pressing that, I will click on B. B is going to activate the knife tool. Just as you can see, the cursor symbol has changed and I now have a knife tool. So once the knife tool is here, I can select and my footage would cut at that exact place. Now take note, once the knife tool is activated, I do not need the marker anymore. I can just move this to any section of the video where I want to cut and select. And it will automatically cut the video at that part. So I'll just go back and do Ctrl Z. So now that I am done with the knife tool, how do I take it back to the selecting tool? Simply put, pressing on A, pressing the A key on your keyboard will deactivate this knife tool. I will do that right away. So I'll press A and I have gone back to the selecting mode. Just to quickly confirm this, I would go back to this section. If you remember where I showed you this in our last video, to select and to split, as you can see the shortcuts here, A and B. Let me quickly do that again so that you can see. A is for the selection, B is to cut. A selection, B to cut. A selection, B to cut. So I hope that is clear. So now that we have cut out the parts that we don't need, I will go back to select this footage and delete. Now I'll delete by pressing backspace. Let's reduce this so that we can see. Good. The footage has been reduced to about 51 seconds. So yeah, I will just move this to the beginning to confirm that we have what we want. So there's another shortcut that I use. I can come here to select play to play the footage, or I can just hit the space bar. Space bar play, space bar pause, space bar for play, space bars for pause. So all these shortcuts are some of the things that will make your editing experience more fun and less stressful. So we have succeeded in cutting the beginning part of the video. I think there's also a part at the ending section that we do not need. So I can identify that by these bit markers. As you can see in this section is indicating that there are no sounds here. So I can just confirm that. I would come over here, I will select and play. Okay, let me select from here and play.
Video production, and I think it all happens in editing.
Perfect. So I'll pause this. I was correct. So I'll activate my knife tool by pressing B and I will cut from this section. So I'll cut that, go back to my selecting mode, select the footage and hit backspace. So now I have the footage that I want to use for this edit. That is how you trim your videos, your audios, your B-rolls, or whatever it is that you want to trim. All right, so don't forget, A is to activate the selection mode and the B on your keyboard is to activate the cut mode. All right, and also the space bar is to pause and play footage, and the backspace on your keyboard is to delete the footage. And also don't forget what this section is used for. This is where we select the aspect ratio depending on the social media we are creating the content for. And lastly, this section where you have to turn on the proxy so that you do not experience lagging when working on CapCut. So I want you to go ahead to import this footage and trim yours to start from here.
So I love editing.
Where he says, I love editing, and make it end here.
It all happens in editing.
Where he says it all happens in editing. So in the next lesson, we would import this audio, mute the one for the footage, for the main footage, and then sync the audio to the footage to make sure the audio plays exactly when he is saying the same thing in the main footage. So I'll see you in the next video.